Hello everyone, this is Sabrina from Live Through This. Today we have an interview with Carol Queen, sexologist, erotica writer, and co-founder of the Center for Sex and Culture. But first, a little bit of Carol's work.
Dear Abby, I just lost my virginity. I was not expecting this guy to come over, and so I did not have any kind of birth control, and neither did he. Abby, I can't get any birth control at all because I can't tell my parents that this has happened, and I have no money, and the doctor is 30 miles away, and I have no transportation. Not even, Abby, a green Mustang. I didn't even finish the letter. I didn't mail it. But if I had, my question for her would have been simple. What do I do, Abby? What do I do?
Can you just tell us a little bit about your submission to Live Through This?
Sure. I wrote about the time in my life when sexuality was in many ways the most fraught for me. The thing that was most problematic, thinking about my life and the way self-destruction and creativity played in the themes of the book, I thought about the time when I lost my virginity, didn't know whether I was pregnant, didn't know whether or not it would be possible for me to do anything about it if I was, scared of talking to my parents, scared of having a kid, scared of talking to the guy that I had had sex with who was not supportive, and thinking through right after this happened and being very much in the throes of being frightened about all of it, about just jumping out the window, just ending it, just offing myself without any other context around me for that desire. I didn't go through with it. I think if I had had steps leading up to that moment that sort of predisposed me in that direction, if I wasn't curious and interested about the world around me as it was, that might have been something that I went through with. But as it was a fear that I sort of stared down and worked through by writing. And of course became a writer later in all kinds of contexts. But that was the most important, useful use for me of writing probably ever.
Let me ask you a little bit about, I mean, you grew up, it was a small town in, was it Seattle?
It was Oregon.
Oregon, I'm
yeah,
sorry.
It's an Oregon town.
In the dense fog of Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, it was probably very easy to be terrified by, not knowing, not having sexual information readily available. But contrast that to now where people have the internet and there's almost too much information available. Is there any link? I mean, because right now I'm like, would the same thing happen? Would someone feel as isolated today as they would have 35 years ago because of the technology?
Even if a kid is wired up on the internet, if they're out in the boonies, having internet friends is better than having imaginary friends. But it's not the same thing as having humans right in your world that you can count on and that you can trust, especially if the other humans in your world are not people that you can especially count on and trust. And I'm not trying to minimize those friendships and those connections in any way. I am reminding people, just as everybody else does, that you have to be careful who you trust on the internet, just as you have to be careful who you trust in real life, that those issues are still very much there. And if anything, it's easier for somebody on the internet to misrepresent themselves and pull the wool over your eyes. But the thing that seems to me comparable is if you're out in the sticks and you don't have a way to get into town and you think you're knocked up and you don't have a way to talk to your parents and you might be pregnant but your boyfriend doesn't have a car, or he won't let you ride in it, like my situation, then it might as well be 1968 or 1973. It might as well be 1921 or 1947. You know, it's true that there's more of a way now for a young person to understand that out there in the world there are options for her or him. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't necessarily feel the same way in town, in the little bitty town, with no bus service to the next bigger town, mm-hmm. out in the sticks. Isolation geographically is still very real for us now, and emotionally too, obviously.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to switch gears a little bit and ask you to talk a little bit about creation, like, creating, writing, drawing, all that stuff. What are the similarities to sex?
Oh, what a great question. I think the biggest similarity between creative practice and sex is that if you stay too much in your head and you don't go into the flow, you don't do it as successfully as you might or as pleasurably as you might. I think that's the way that the two things really, really connect. And obviously, creativity involves that you go into your emotions, your what some people call the subconscious, to get access to links that sometimes you don't know consciously until you start to do your practice, until you start to do your art or your writing or whatever. And I think sex brings together the brain hemispheres that way too. Maybe not always in a way that you learn something new out of the sex that you have, although that's been true for me plenty of times and for plenty of other people, I'm sure. But that if you really want to go into the potential of sexuality, the sort of altered state that it can be, that's neither right nor left brain. That takes you into a space where you really are operating on brain chemicals that are very special to the process of connection with another person or sexual pleasure, even just with yourself. And those things, I think, have some relationships. I'd love to see the MRI doctors say, all right, let's take all the creative people, put them through the MRI. Okay, do it again. Let's have them masturbate. Okay, what lit up? That would be a cool study. I don't expect to see it anytime soon. Funding for studies being what it is in this day and age, whereas if you don't have let's say a drug that you can charge a lot of money for at the end of the tunnel, you pretty much don't get a whole lot of money to do sex studies these days. But it would be cool. It would be great to know. And I really just want to tell people who are interested in sexuality or creativity, but who find something stops them. I think writer's block and a block around sexuality and being able to give yourself over to the experience, I bet those are pretty similar phenomena. And the thing to do is get out of your head. Get somewhere else. Get in your emotions, get in your body, get someplace other than on the hamster wheel where you're like, oh my God, I can't do it. The page is blank. Oh, I don't know if I'm going to get turned on. I don't know if I'm going to come. Maybe write an erotic story. Maybe that's the answer.
Let me ask you one last question. What would you say right now to the Carol that was at 15 years old who was considering suicide, or just someone right now that is in that space, that is at the window's ledge? What would you say to them?
I would say that you cannot see how many possibilities there are for you. You can't see them because you're clouded by what's going on right now. You can't see them because maybe the people in your life have actively conspired that you not be able to see them. Your culture doesn't really want to show them to you, especially if you're under 18 or 21. But there are so many things out there that are possible for you, that you could do, that you could be interested in, that you could matter to, that would matter to you. And if you take the step now, although it ends the suffering on one level, it ends every possibility that you would ever have to overcome your suffering yourself, to make a difference for other people, to tell your story, to get revenge, to have the last word, to really live well. It's not worth it. You lose too much if you say, I can't do it now. It's not worth it. You've got to go and see what life has for you. Because as soon as you understand that you can be a co-creator of something new and much better than where you are now, it may take a little while, but once you understand you can be a co-creator of it, it will give you the first step on the path. So just keep moving along the path, you'll find it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Carol Queen.
You are so welcome, Sabrina. I'm so thrilled to be in your book.
Yay. Okay.